appears to be Jay Mendoza, so we might want to, when we get to audience business, check and make sure if he has something to say, because I know they're getting ready to do capital credit. So
Right, and actually, I think he wanted to, I don't know if he had a, that's right, Mark did tell me that he was gonna join with us tonight, and I think, I don't know if it's about construction or what he was wanting, but yes, I'll double check with him. Okay, and it looks like we are live on YouTube now, so we're good.
perfect. So we're good, ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is roll call. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ott. Yes.
Here.
Okay, Trustee Doherty,
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Here.
Trustee Morris,
I'm here.
Trustee Strock.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Jeffrey and a second from Trustee Ott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty,
Here.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Morris.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion is approved. The agenda is approved by a vote of 6-0. Next item on the agenda is audience business. The town clerk had indicated she had not received any emails, but we will check with the people that are in the attendee list to see if they have anything for purposes of audience business.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I got it. Hi, Jay. Just wanted to see if you had anything for audience participation.
Good evening, guys. Just wanted to check in, say hi, listen to the board meeting and find out, just kind of keeping in the loop. The only thing I have is, as you guys mentioned earlier on the call, the board, our United Power Board has released the release of capital credits a little early. And we're hoping that that comes back and makes a little bit of a push for stimulus within the economies. So in the next week and a half, I'll be swinging by with the capital credit check and just dropping it off.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I think our other attendee on here was May, who I believe is here for purposes of our later item, but we can check in with her.
Hi, May. Are you here just to participate in the trustee vacancy portion, or do you have anything for audience business?
No, I'm just tuning in for the other part.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and seeing, let me just make sure one more time that we don't have other attendees. Nope, and seeing no other attendees, I will move on to the next item on the agenda. The next item is the consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, 2 items on tonight's consent agenda are the May 19th, 2020 payment approval report in the amount of $750,096.76 and the May 5th, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Do I have a motion from Trustee Jeffrey and a second from Trustee Strock? Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Morris,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the financial update from April 2020. Ms. Rademacher.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Before you have the April financial statement. I didn't do a detailed analysis like I did the last time and give you 8 pages worth of information. So I will do that on more of a quarterly basis unless you want it more frequently. So I don't see anything of concern right now in the April financials. I would like to update you a little bit on the status of the audit. The auditors did come out, 2 of them came out, I think the Friday before last, which may have been May 8th. And they spent the good part of the day at the town hall. And I'm expecting to get a draft audit either later this week or early next week. They're still planning on presenting the 2019 audit to the board, the second meeting in June. So once I get it, I'm going to have a pretty tight turnaround on reviewing it and getting it finalized. But we're pretty much on schedule still with the audit, so that's going well. I guess I'll pause right now to see if there are any questions about the financials. And then I did do a brief little agenda item summary regarding a question that Trustee Ott had inquired about an article that was in the Greeley Tribune regarding the property tax abstract reports and how the downturn in oil and gas may affect the town of Lochbuie. So before I get to that, are there any questions on the April financials?
And board members, if you have a question, go ahead and raise your Zoom hand now and I will make sure to call on you. I am seeing no Zoom hands raised. You can continue.
Okay, so on or about April 24th, Don Warden, who is the Director of Finance and Administration for Weld County, there was an article in the Greeley Tribune where he discussed the downturn in the oil and gas and how that might affect various tax entities, special districts, towns, cities, and things of that nature within the county. And Trustee Ott inquired about how that would affect the town of Lochbuie. So what you have before you is just a really brief analysis that I did. And I did this a lot when I was at the town of Meade, because they had, unlike Lochbuie, they had a high percentage of their assessed valuations in oil and gas. So the good part for Lochbuie is that only 1% of the assessed valuations right now are in oil and gas, which means if there's a downturn in that sector, it's not going to have as great of an impact on our property taxes as it will some other taxing entities that have a higher oil and gas assessed valuation. So that's the good part of it. On the flip side, we do have about 91% of ours assessed valuations is in residential. So the thing to watch there is if there's any changes in the residential assessment rate, which could happen. I've read some forecasts that during the next reassessment year, which will be in 2021, the assessment rate for residential could go down from 7.15. The one report I saw said it could go below 6%. So that is something to keep our eyes on and to be aware. If that happens, our property tax would go down because we do have a large percentage that is tied to the residential piece. So we'll keep our eye out on that. Again, that's not going to happen for at least 2 budget years. It would affect us in 2022. So we've got a little bit of time, and hopefully things will improve, and that won't be of a concern. So does anybody have any questions about the abstract or the memo that I put together?
Looking for Zoom hands. And seeing one from Trustee Jeffrey.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank you very much for putting that together. I found it super helpful. So thank you.
Same. And I see a question from Trustee Ott as well.
I want to say thank you for answering my question. I appreciate the input because I really didn't know how it would affect us.
Right. Yeah. And, when we get closer to the budget, I will have I'll drill down and do specific slides and some more graphs. And because I'm a very visual person, I think if you see things in charts and graphs and things like that, it drives home the message very clearly. And so during the budget process, you'll be seeing a lot more of those from me on these different types of revenues and analysis of how they may be affected and what they look like for 2021 and beyond.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the only thing I had to add is I appreciate all of the information you've been giving to us in the first couple months you've been with us. In some ways, it seems very timely that we got you on boards now that our budget picture is becoming a little bit of a mess, and it's kind of nice to have a picture of how that all interplays. So thank you very much for all the information you've been giving us.
Okay, and then you're welcome. I love being here. So far, so good. So I do want to also give you a brief update on where I am in the 2021 budget process. I am developing some spreadsheets and worksheets right now. I find it very helpful to have worksheets for every single account that is in our financials. I find it kind of difficult sometimes when I look at the financials to figure out where I'm supposed to post a specific invoice. You know, does it go here? Does it go there? Because I don't really have any worksheets per se that say how that number was developed. And so I am developing a bunch of worksheets that go along with each of the accounts that each of the department heads will have a chance to fill out and put money into and ask for funding in 2021. So that process has started. And another thing that I wanted to make you all aware of is, as part of this, when I was building these spreadsheets, I did come across a slight variation in the general fund and the conservation trust funds in the 2020 budget. It looks like, based on what I'm seeing, that when the 2020 budget was prepared, the 2018 numbers were not tied back to the actual audit for 2018. And so that just caused the beginning balances to be not tied to the financials, to the audit. And so the result for the 2020 budget looks like the beginning balance for the general fund was off by about $1 million, $1 million short of what it was anticipated. And in the conservation trust fund, it looked like it was off by about $100,000. So I have corrected that. Everything going forward, I will make sure it ties to the audit. That's what the audit is for. Your financials have to tie to the audit, and the audit has to tie to your budget, and everything needs to just tie to each other. So I'm very much one that ticks and ties and dots my I's and crosses my T's and make sure everything balances. So just wanted to make you aware of that. You know, we're looking at things very closely right now, and we'll keep an eye on the revenues and on the expenditures, but long and short of it, we may be in the general fund about $1 million short of what we had forecast for the ending balance in 2020, unless we can have some increased revenues or our decreased expenses. But I think we should be fine.
Where does that leave us then in terms of actual and expected imbalance at the end of 2020?
Actual would be about $1 million less than what it is saying in the 2020 budget. So it was about 3.4 million versus the 4.4 million. Okay. But again, it's only May, and I'm seeing some strong, you know, we're only 3 months in on the sales tax. So it looks like it's doing a little better than what was budgeted. The budget seemed to be very conservative. And, you know, we're doing our part in addition to the COVID, making some reductions in capital expenditures and things like that. But I think between the two of those things, it should be okay. But like I said, I will keep you all posted, and I will report back on a monthly basis and let you know how things are shaping up.
Perfect. I am checking for any Zoom hands for final questions. So if anyone has more questions, please raise your Zoom hand now. I am seeing none. Thank you very much for your update.
Thank you.
And then I think we will shift immediately into an action item that is yours regarding the investment policy, action item 8A.
Okay, let me clean off my kitchen table / office desk right now. So the next item is, well, when I got to Loch Buoy, I discovered we really don't have an investment policy. So what you see before you is an agenda item summary recommending and telling you about the value of having an actual investment policy that the town can follow as far as making sure that our funds are secure, that they're invested in appropriate things for public funds, and that we're looking at the three important things of safety, liquidity, and yield in that order. And, you know, basically broadening ourselves to being able to use our funds better for the town, as far as getting them invested in some very safe, liquid, or short-term investments that could significantly increase the amount of interest income that the town can realize. So what you have before you is an investment policy that does just that. It kind of spells out, based on the CRS's, where the funds of public funds can be invested. It basically lays out for you a type of a policy of how much can be invested in each of those type of instruments. Just basically how an investment policy would work to the benefit of the town. So if you have any questions about it, I'm here to answer those.
I am going to check for Zoom hands to see if anyone has any questions. I am not seeing any hands. And I didn't have any questions personally. The one thing that threw me is there's some, it looks like the formatting got kind of messed up in the policy itself. So it might just be something we want to clean up before we officially do whatever we do with it after it's adopted. But otherwise it looked appropriate to me. I'll check one more time for hands or questions.
And let me know what formatting you're referring to, and then I can make sure that
it's just when you pull it up, it's got some weird spacing issues, and it looks like some spots where sentences were broke apart. And
okay, that may be just different versions of Word or whatever. So okay, yeah,
right.
we'll make sure it's all cleaned up.
Cool. And then I don't see any other hands or questions. So if there are none, I will entertain a motion. Anyone?
I feel like I'm
resolution number 2020-05, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, adopting an investment policy for town funds.
second.
I have a motion from Trustee Doherty and a second from Trustee Jeffrey. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty,
Yes.
Trustee Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. Next item on our, thank you, Ms. Rademacher, for your presentations tonight, and have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
And then the next item on our agenda is action item 8B, the trustee vacancy. And I'll let Ms. Blackston kind of introduce it. And then once she gives her update, we'll turn to May Westcott and James Cummerly if they just want to introduce themselves and say a couple minutes about why they're interested in the position. That would be great.
Okay, so we have a trustee vacancy seat that became vacant April 14th, and then we just need to appoint her by June 13th. And we got two applicants, May Westcott and James, gosh, and I don't want to butcher his last name, I'm sorry. And so they're both in attendance, and that's what we got. Okay, so let's see. Which one do you want to go with, Jacob? I'm sorry, May?
It doesn't matter. Just let's give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves and just say
Okay, so May, I've unmuted you, so.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm May Westcott. I moved to Lochbuie in 2015, and one of our reasons for moving north out of sort of the suburban Denver, although Lochbuie, technically is still, but is that we really wanted to go to a place that had more of a small town feel. I have two young sons, and we just wanted to be a part of our community. And so that was one of my goals when we moved out here, was to get involved. I've been involved with the schools in terms of the elementary schools, planning the Meadow Ridge Elementary School. I've also volunteered as part of the PTA programs out here, And then I've been a regular attender and member of my HOA delegate group. And then last year, there was an opportunity to help out the town, be more involved in the town business by helping out with the Lochbuie Fall Festival. And so I jumped in and helped out with that. And so really my primary purpose in applying for this position is just that I feel like giving back to the community is an important part of being a part of the community, and serving as a member of the town board is a way that I can do that and help my community. And so I appreciate any opportunity you'd like to give me.
Thank you. And if we want to give Mr., I think his last name is Cummerly, but I'll let him tell us if he wants to take an opportunity to introduce himself and say a few minutes.
Linda, you're muted.
Okay, I'm trying to unmute him now. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, James.
Okay. Hi, my name is James Kimmerly. Much easier to pronounce than the spell. You can call me Jim. It's just, you know, from working so many things, you know, James gets plastered everywhere. So you just can call me Jim. My family and I have been residing in Lochbuie for about the last 5 years. We had spent a couple of years before that up in Wyoming, and when coming down this direction, still trying to find, you know, very similar comments. A smaller little town, you know, certainly you spend any time in Wyoming, you know, it's just made up of a million little towns, and certainly I was trying to find that without creating a 3-hour commute. So been able to call Lochbuie home. Professionally, the last 26 years, I've been employed as a licensed clinical social worker. Currently, I work for an agency called Community Reach Center, based out of Adams County. I manage a program for older adults and those with complex medical conditions. You know, everywhere we've lived, you know, tried to be involved in different aspects of the community, very involved in Boy Scouts. I'm the Scoutmaster of a troop in Brighton. My son just graduated from Weld Central, who is also an Eagle Scout and will be a freshman this fall at the University of Wyoming. I was approached a few weeks ago by Trustee Strzok while I was walking our dog, and you know, he and I since then have been, you know, continuing our conversation and dialogue about this opportunity. And certainly throughout my career, I think I've been presented with different opportunities to attend different national leadership programs and being responsible for, you know, different budgets. You know, certainly things that managing programs that we needed to have be financially viable. So I look at my experience throughout my career and being responsible for managing people, responsible for lives, and managing budgets and trying to be fiscally responsible and prudent. I think with the combination of the background and the experience, I would be an asset, and you know, I look forward in serving my community in this capacity.
Okay. Thank you for your introductions from both of you. I think what we will do is go down the board and let everyone kind of speak to their thoughts and kind of share your view on where we should go with this position. I'll save mine for the end, but I do want to quickly say at the very beginning, I think both of you are exceptional candidates, and I'm glad you both applied. Whichever one of you doesn't get the appointment, I most certainly hope that you think about running in November when we're likely to have some openings anyway, because I think you both would be exceptionally great members of the board. So I'll start down on what is normally our far right end, which is Trustee Jeffrey.
Hi, Jim. Hi, May. I'm glad you're both here. Congratulations to Owen on his graduation, Jim, and tell Christine hi for me. I I have a lot of respect and admiration for both of these people, having worked with May in the school district and having known Jim and his family since they moved to Lochbuie and their kiddo started as a 7th grader at my school. I think they both would be great. And I echo everything that Jacob said. Like, we need to make a decision tonight so that we have a full board and we can continue to move forward and do the things that we need to do. But I hope that whoever ends up in the seat, that the other person doesn't feel slighted and will still take that step to run for election in November. I like them both. I would draw straws or flip a coin, honestly, to decide.
Next up is Trustee Doherty.
Just out of kind of curiosity, what areas of town do they both live in?
Let's see.
To prevent having to pull them both up, Mae Westcott lives in Silver Peaks, and James lives in Berkshire, actually down the street from Trustee Strock and I.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought. I just wanted to confirm. I guess honestly, the way that I'd probably lean is towards May, just because we don't currently have anybody on the board from Silver Peaks, whereas we do have a very large majority of the board from Berkshire, and I think that would just honestly throw the representation from Berkshire even further that direction. So that honestly, based on what I've read, they're both good candidates, but that's I think rather than flipping a coin trying to find the one thing that is a kind of a differentiator between the two, that's probably where I would lean. But definitely, hopefully, they both decide to run in November as well. So.
Okay. Next is Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Yeah, I appreciate both of your step up to the plate and applying for the position. And again, whichever one of you doesn't get it, I would definitely want you to run in November. Again, I'm going to voice my concern is I'm the only one from anywhere else other than, that's in the farms or Old Town. So I do appreciate Trustee Doherty's comment about only one from Silver Peak. So at least we get a little bit diversity there. Thank you.
Next would be Trustee Strock.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. I kind of have some reservations about Mae Westcott. Did she work with Jeffrey? I was kind of, made me
No, she's at the high school. I'm at the middle school for 1 month more from today. I'm not going back in the fall.
so she doesn't have to answer to you in any way. All right. And I think as far as everybody living in Berkshire, I think when it comes to November, I think the Berkshire participants will probably be cut in half. So you're not going to have as many people from Berkshire come the next election. I also would like to thank Jim for, attending the last meeting. He had some pretty good comments about the meeting we had last month. And so I think that kind of shows an interest. I think he's more than qualified for this position. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, and then next would be Trustee Morris.
Thank you. My comments basically echo those of Mayor Lofgren and Trustee Doherty. I'm impressed that we have two very capable, motivated individuals interested in the position. Whoever does not get selected, I hope that you will look for other opportunities to be involved or to serve. There's a number of things kind of in the works right now, and then take a look in November and let's see if we can take advantage of your talents then. But that's all I have.
Okay, and then, yeah, just to build on what I said at the beginning, you both are great. I know we are likely to have some openings in November, so hopefully you both will continue being interested, whichever one doesn't get appointed tonight. The thing that is the deciding factor for me and what are two great candidates is the fact that we are not suffering for representation from Berkshire right now. We're certainly not suffering for representation from Lone Wolf Circle in Berkshire right now. And honestly, for me, that is the big, how do you decide between two really great choices? One represents a part of town where we have no representation. The other lives on the same street where two of us already live. And for that reason, I will lean towards appointing Ms. Westcott to that position. If anyone has anything further to say, I will look for Zoom hands now. And if the Trustee Strock?
Yeah, you know, I'm not so sure it really matters what part of town you live in. I mean, I would think a good trustee would visit all the parts of town, you know, and go out and actually check the fences in this town, you know, go out and see what's going on. You know, sitting at home doesn't really do much for anybody. So that's all I want to say. I don't think that everybody coming from Berkshire really makes much of a difference if you're out in, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Old Town. I spent a lot of time in Lockwood. I go to see people up, you know, in Blue Lakes, and I have people over in Silver Peak. So Silver Peaks is almost mostly Brighton anymore. So that's all I want to say. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, checking for further hands. I'm seeing, saw a hand, maybe that's Trustee Strock's going down. I'm not seeing any further hands. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'd
I
like to
move
make a
to-
motion to appoint Jim Kilmer as our, for the trustee vacancy position.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren,
No.
Trustee Ott,
No.
sorry, Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty,
No.
Trustee Morris,
No.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Abstain.
okay.
So the motion
I'm-
fails.
I move to approve May Westcott as the trustee for the remainder of the term.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock,
No.
Trustee Doherty,
Yes.
Trustee Morris,
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Abstain.
Trustee Ott,
Aye.
And the motion carries 4 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Ms. Westcott will be appointed to the position. And I don't know that it needs to be repeated again, but I certainly hope that Jim does decide to run in November. There's likely to be openings. And based on everything you said tonight and everything we've seen in your packet, I think you would be an exceptional member of the board. I just think to add more people from Berkshire at this time, it wouldn't be the right call. So with that, I will move on to our discussion items
Mayor,
tonight. Yes,
it's just a matter of process on this. Thank you for that discussion. And hold on, I don't know why my video, hold on a second.
I was gonna say, just a picture of you.
There we go. Just as a matter of process, we have a resolution then to fill a vacancy. It's resolution 2020-6. And actually, if I pull it up really fast, you can see that it's, oh no, I can't pull it up. It's disabled for me, but I'll just read it. It just says that effective April 14th, Trustee Gary Counterman resigned his position as trustee. In accordance with state statute, the town board of trustees must either appoint a person to fill the vacancy or schedule a special election. The town board of trustees desires to appoint a successor to fill the vacancy in the office of trustee created by the resignation of Gary Counterman. And therefore, the board of trustee hereby appoints the following person to fill the vacancy in the office of trustee created by the resignation of Gary Counterman until the next regular election to be conducted in November 2020. with a blank, in which we would now add the name May Westcott. So that resolution is resolution 2020-6, and I would like to get a motion to approve that resolution just so we can get that signed and be done with this.
I move to approve resolution 2020-6.
Thank you.
I'll second.
I have a motion from trustee Doherty and a second from trustee Jeffrey to approve resolution 2020-6. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
trustee Ott,
Aye.
trustee Doherty,
Yes.
trustee Strock,
No,
trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
And the motion carries 5-1. Thank you for reminding me of that. Next item on the agenda is discussion item. This is just a quick discussion item for the board. I'll go down the line. We're trying to decide whether we want to stay with remote meetings in June or move to in-person meetings. I proposed to staff that we bring this up on the agenda. My thinking is we stay remote in June because it buys us another 7 weeks before we actually have to be back in person with each other, which avoids some of the ongoing COVID risks. I honestly don't have a strong position on it. That's just kind of my thinking. So I wanted to gauge where everyone's at on that. Trustee Morris.
I would like to continue the remote meetings for at least another month just to see how things develop and keep it remote for June at least and go from there.
Okay, trustee Strock,
I'm fine with that.
trustee Ott,
A big no, N-O.
trustee Doherty,
Yes.
and trustee Jeffrey.
I think it's smart to stick with remote meetings for June.
Okay, so I think we have our direction. We will stick with remote meetings with a strong hope that we will be resuming our in-person meetings for the first meeting in July, which I believe is July. July 7th will hopefully be our first in-person meeting. One thing to keep in mind, board members, that means we will be considering the ordinance on the gas stations and truck stops via this platform on June 2nd. So just be prepared with your comments, have them ready to go for that night. And make sure that you consider the information that we received both last time and in all of our prior discussions. So that's all I have on that. The next item on the agenda is staff reports for the month. First one is from Chief McCoy.
There we go. That was probably more difficult than I thought it was. Yeah, I don't have anything. Our calls for service were way down, as you can expect, and that's mainly because we've scaled way back on the amount of self-initiated officer activity, traffic stops, those kind of things, trying to keep less contact. In addition to that, we're also trying to take calls by phone, although we're starting to change that a little bit. And as the state releases grant money for DUI grant and different things, we're starting to become more active again in traffic stops and using the necessary precautions with the N95 masks that we have and disinfecting vehicles and the PD area when we know when they know they've been in contact with somebody who has been positive, which is happening more and more, actually. They're coming in contact with more and more people that are positive living in town, in both Keensburg and Lochbuie. So hopefully we've been pretty good so far. We had one officer get sick, but so we sent him home with symptoms, with a fever, and he ended up getting testing and he was negative. So he will be back to work next week. So he was off for 4 or 5 days during that time frame. So we're taking all the precautions that we can. I think it's a matter of time before somebody gets sick within the department, since they have to go out and deal with people on a daily basis. So, so yeah, we're doing all the things we can do to be safe and still carry out the job. So, open up to any questions you have for me or anything. Oh, officer, I guess I also wanted to mention that one of the officers didn't make it through field training. He just couldn't couldn't quite get it. So we had to let them go, which I guess is probably better to do that now than to move them forward and then fail when they're out there doing this on their own. So it was sad. Very likable guy. So it was a sad deal. Any questions?
I am looking for Zoom hands. And I am seeing none. Thank you for your update, Chief.
That was the easy one. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Next report is from Mr. Amy.
Okay, I'd unmute myself. As you can see on the monthly activity log, flows, are up in 2020 from the construction completed in 2018, I would imagine. Takes that long for us to really see it. We did see a lower BOD than normal, and I think some of that had to do with sampling location had changed from when the influent pump station was done and built, so we relocated that. Plant's running good, but you can see how much we're dewatering on that new press. I mean, we're getting darn near 900,000 gallons a month through that instead of having somebody else do it. I will have a report for you next month that shows to date the differences in hauling liquid to hauling cake, and you're going to see that we're about 65% in savings. So that's not chicken feed. We have the normal stuff that goes wrong. I mean, we're staying on top of everything. The UV system's running beautiful. You look at the water treatment plant. Again, you can see April was up from 2020 to 2019, and we'll probably see that increase and then plateau if building doesn't start again. But usually, you're a year behind from when construction starts and ends. As far as our capital improvement projects, Steve and I talked, and we're going to hold off on quite a few till we see how things play out. The three things we will do, we do need to look at those older pumps on the RO as well as the high service pump, as well as cleaning the tanks. It's been 5 years since we cleaned our tanks, and to be in requirements, we have to clean them this year. And then the wastewater projects, we got a lot done. The collection system is completed. The anoxic zone mixers are completed. The weir launders, we're still researching. I found a couple of products that show a lot of promise that I'm going to go look at, some that are installed down in Colorado Springs. What it would do is really change the way the clarifiers work altogether, make them more efficient, more flow through, and a lot less maintenance. We're still working on the actuated controls with the SCADA integrator. As I said, we did replace the UV system. The SCADA integrator has still got some work to do. He's trying to finish up a couple projects. Then when we can get the equipment in for the DOORP, he'll come back and we'll do all of that. The air conditioning system's installed, and thank God, because with these hot days, I talked to Randy this morning, and he said yesterday it only got up to 70 inside that room, where this last year it would have been probably 105. So that's electrical gear that's in there. So that'll just, increases your longevity of how long it's going to work. The collection system metering, I think Mark has a little report on that about United Power coming up and getting us to power. And then the master plan, I got the draft RFP to town administrator. He's, Steve's got some tweaking he'd like to do to it, and how we're going to go about getting that in the rate studies done at the same time. So that's where we're at right now. But life is good in Lockbuoy.
Thank you. And I'm looking for any hands if there are questions. And I am seeing none. Thank you very much for your update, Mr. Amy.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next item is Mr. Johns.
So I really don't have a whole lot additional to the report that I sent out to everyone. I did want to kind of update everyone as far as the roundabout situation. They are looking at paving that south side of the roundabout starting next week, as well as that northwest corner. Once the paving is completed, we are looking at, and conversations have been had with the traffic engineer to close a short section of 37 from the frontage road to Willow, just so that that construction can happen and we can create a safe environment. The concern is to leave that north entrance to the gas station open and have it be a drive-through. That definitely would create some safety concerns. So we felt it was best to just go ahead and close that all the way down to Willow. So people would still be able to go into the gas stations through the frontage road and back out onto the frontage road. But other than that, if anyone has any questions.
So Mark, I would just follow up, say the closure is anticipated to be 5 days. And we would provide 10 days to a 2-week notice of that closure with a detour map. And I had a conversation with the mayor to also check with him to see if we could do any of the work on a weekend. So we will follow up with that as well.
And we had a conversation as well as trying to have that done maybe over a weekend. Any way we can kind of make it as easy as possible for our residents.
Okay, and I'm seeing a hand from Trustee Strock.
I had a question about the street sweeper. Are we renting a street sweeper or have we purchased another one?
We rented a street sweeper. We actually sent it back today. We rented it for 1 month and it was due back actually tomorrow. It was due back. We sent it back today.
Did it work properly? I got quite a few calls about it leaving more dust than it was picking up.
It works properly. There's just was a lot of dirt out there. So it would have been nice to have it for a couple of months so we could really have, cleaned them up. You almost need to make multiple passes, but with the amount of road we have and the amount that we're trying to get done on top of, it is the beginning of May. We're trying to get on top of the parks, the sprinklers, the weed spraying and all of that. We're running a little thin. So we did the best we could with what we had. And then we're definitely going to try to maybe look before the end of the season, maybe renting a sweeper again and doing it one more time would be nice.
All right. Thank you very much. It's encouraging.
Trustee Doherty.
Yeah, for the closure, I actually think that might be better to not be on the weekend. I would imagine, I mean, I don't really know for fact, but I would imagine that business sees most of their traffic on the weekend when people are home. So if we're basically making it almost impossible for anybody in town to go get a pop to get gas other than having to go up to 4. Okay, Mayor, am I misspeaking?
It'll still be accessible from the frontage road.
Well, right. So the only other way to get to the frontage road, though, right, is to go all the way up to 4. So am I going to go to there? Am I going to go somewhere else? I mean, for people that are going to that facility, I actually think it would have more of a detrimental impact to that business owner on the weekend than it would during the week.
Yeah, 90% of the complaints I get are about closing roads on work days, though. Especially those main roads that get out to the interstate.
Fair enough. I guess, I mean, we generally don't close roads to a business, though, and essentially eliminate access to that business. I mean, we don't really have any other businesses that we've done that to, so.
True.
I don't know. I actually think if we could do a way to make it a little bit more accessible to that, I think that would be preferable. But if we can't, I guess we can't. I mean, my thought is if we're shutting down the frontage road from, let's say the south entrance at the gas station all the way to County Road 2, and then the 37 to the other entrance as well. I mean, they wouldn't really be using that as a way through because where are they going? I mean, most people would be trying to get back to go to like I-76. So I guess I don't really see that being, a street for people to go through that parking lot, because all it's going to do is get them out to the frontage road to go north.
No, it's still going to be open going towards 2. Right? Am I right about that, Mr. Johns?
I guess I understood that we were basically shutting that whole area down from basically County Road 2 all the way up so they could do all that work.
So the frontage road will be open. So you'll be able to go, I guess, north or southbound on the frontage road. And so the concern is then people would take a left into that gas station and then go through it to get over onto 37 and then go north from there. And so it almost becomes a traffic concern with people driving straight through instead of going around, if that makes sense.
So just so I understand then, so is the closure just essentially on 37 from the frontage road up to Subway essentially?
Yeah, it's to do kind of that intersection right there at 37 and the frontage road. They've already added extra pavement towards the east so that you can have that through lane.
Okay, I thought it was the whole frontage road where they were doing the work as well. So I misunderstood that. So I have no issues with that. Sorry.
Pay closer attention, Trustee Doherty.
We're trying to keep the frontage road open so that there is access in and out for the gas station.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm looking for any further hands. And seeing none, thank you for your update, Mr. Johns. The next report is from Mr. Staney.
Just a couple of quick updates. So we've been advised that it looks like D.R. Horton Melody Homes is anticipating closure of Silver Peaks East in September. And they're also working on the closure of the remaining part of Silver Peaks from Walton Group. And we were told that they're still on track to submit us a new concept plan, proposed replat of that north half of the undeveloped part of Silver Peaks. So that would be good news that they're still looking at that. Just a couple of quick updates. As you know, we have funds coming available in July for both of the 2 grant programs that we got through Dr. Cog, one for the I-76 interchange. That has a $200,000 local match. The second grant was for a trail from 37 going down the utility corridor greenway to near Silver Peaks, and that has a $450,000 local match. So Dr. Cog has sent out an inquiry as well as CDOT as far as the status of those projects and our ability to continue those. So I think I've had some communities say they couldn't do that now. I responded back to them saying we want to still pursue the $200,000 match and the I-76 project. I've not confirmed one way or the other on the trail project because that's a more significant impact on our general fund ability to match. So if you can give that some thought, I don't necessarily need a decision tonight, but I should get direction from the board at least by your first meeting in June.
Okay, and I see a hand from Trustee Doherty.
It was actually for Public Works again. When is the sidewalk anticipated to be done?
Which sidewalk?
On the north side of 2?
The north side of 2. So we're waiting for United Power to install the lighting along 2. And then once that lighting is done and the electrical conduit is cleaned up, they'll go back in and finish up the sidewalk. So I believe that's anticipated to be next week is to start. They were actually doing locates yesterday and today along that stretch. So usually, from what I'm hearing, it's next week they'll start the electrical work, and then right after the sidewalks will be completed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Let me check for other hands. this is kind of I have a joint question for either Steve or Public Works, and maybe we can talk more about this offline, but if Silver Peaks East and Silver Peaks are still pressing forward, have we heard anything more from either of them about their portion of County Road 2?
Not formally, we haven't, but I know that FRICO had a meeting with the designer, the engineer for the culvert crossing on 2 in the city of Brighton. And FRICO sent out a request for an IGA among the Brighton, Lockbuoy, and FRICO regarding the maintenance of that new structure on County Road 2. And of course, with this time of year, that would, the soonest that could occur would be this fall in November. We're hoping we can get that confirmed with, assuming Horton proceeds with their replat, with a new subdivision improvement agreement for a specific timing of construction of that roadway.
Okay. Yeah, I'm becoming increasingly concerned about it because now that they've punched 60th through in Brighton, that's going to become a real bottleneck because 60th comes right out to where it's still only 2 lanes, and that's going to be a pain in the neck once they start building houses there.
So the developer on that piece north, just west of Silver Peaks on the north side of 2, they have a trigger requirement to construct half of 50th extended up to Jade. So it'd actually be on Silver Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
So that engineer submitted a design plan for a half section of roadway, which would actually be full movement. I've had Martin and our traffic engineer look at that section. I've also asked our comments to include a reference and timing for signalization, and if that could be installed with this project as well.
Cool.
So it sounds like that roadway could be built. I don't know the timing of that construction, but they've hit their trigger point with Brighton, and that would be extended up to Jade, where it goes west then into the development in Brighton.
Okay. Trustee Morris. Trustee Morris? He has his hand up. Okay, Trustee Strapp.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Oh, there's Mike. Yep.
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute button. Question for Mr. Stamey from his report, specifically, Steve, if you could comment maybe a little bit more about that $400,000 grant that was for the trail system. I guess a couple questions about that is when would those funds be available to be released? Could we hold off on those for a bit? When would we have to match that? When would work on that project have to start? Let's see, what else? Could we access part of that 400,000, or is that an all or none situation? And if we could match it, could the match happen over a year or 2, or would it need to be all at once? If you could just elaborate a little bit on that, sir.
Okay, so generally our total match is $450,000. Those funds become available July 1st. We've had an initial meeting with CDOT about starting the IGA work. They would expect the design of that project to start this year and be done, with the construction actually occurring next year. So I'm looking at, it would be probably a $200,000 expenditure this year and $250,000 expenditure in 21.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Morris, or do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks for that information. I think that answered it.
Okay, Trustee Strapp.
I had a question for Steve. Since we haven't been able to have a sewer board meeting, I was wondering if Biden is still putting their PIFs in escrow, and is there a way that maybe they would agree to just start sending us the checks?
So Brighton is still putting PIFs in that escrow, and we need to amend our sewer, that WSA, the old sewer agreement, to allow that escrow to be discontinued to where we could have funds deposited directly to Lock Buoy. We had a draft amendment to that prepared, was going to be ready for discussion at a sewer board meeting. And then the one we had scheduled was canceled because of the COVID outbreak.
I was just wondering if there's some way to get that to move forward, because I see they're still building quite a few houses, and we could probably certainly use that money. So,
Correct.
all right, thank you.
Have we had any follow-up with them, Steve, about rescheduling that meeting? And not that there's any ideal time right now, but
I haven't had a conversation with Brighton about rescheduling that right now.
okay. They're having their own world of problems over there, so.
Yeah, but they got our money.
That's true. Trustee Doherty?
Just as we're talking about kind of revenues and so forth, do we have an expectation on when 7-Eleven should be opening?
They're trying to get open sometime in July.
Oh, wow. They're still a ways out. Okay. Thanks.
I think that was everyone. I'm checking here real fast. Thank you for your update, Mr. Stamey. Any updates from any other staff, Linda or Maureen?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, I will turn to Mayor Trustee comments, and I'll start the opposite direction this time. Trustee Morris.
Thank you. Yeah, a question, I guess, about the status of our parks and playgrounds. I know that the parks have been opened for families and kids to access. Are the playgrounds still off limits? Or are they closed? I keep seeing some are taped off and then some are not. And if they are still closed off, is that still following CDC guidelines, or have those lightened up a bit about playgrounds?
Nope, we're still, the discussions I've had with staff about that. The discussions I've had with staff about that are all related to the governor's order still does not allow for playgrounds to be used. And until the governor lifts it, we're kind of stuck with what that is. The discussions I've had with our staff is as soon as the governor lifts it, they're cool to lift it in town and to open up the playgrounds. But until the governor lifts it, we do what the governor's orders dictate.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I wonder if that's something that maybe we should put out on the platforms to just educate the people, or at least an awareness announcement or something that the parks are open but playgrounds are still closed. I know we have, but I don't think it would hurt to repeat that message a few times just so that people are.
Yeah, it's on the website, it's on Facebook. So, and believe me, I've heard about people that are unhappy with it. And honestly, I think we'll know, the governor should be updating his orders here in about a week. So we should know in time for the next newsletter. And then we can update with whether they're open or still closed or whatever at that point.
Perfect. Final thought, I guess, with kind of an extension of my questions for Mr. Stamey about the trails and that grant, is looking at the map. And I know we're all aware of this, but Lock Buoy is essentially 3 isolated communities. There's Bella Vista in the north, Silver Peaks on the on the west side, and then Old Town and the farms in Berkshire in the center there. And there isn't really any access to the 3 communities other than the main roads. And I guess thinking in along the lines of that trail system, or that is the seed for some thoughts. It would sure be nice if we could find a way to provide more connection and interconnection between the 3 communities. I wonder if at some point we could maybe have as a discussion item, or some further discussion about specifically I think it's Frico who runs the Spear Canal and the Burlington, was the northern the West Burlington Extension Ditch, I think it's officially called. That Burlington Extension Ditch is an artery that connects, well, 2 of the 3 communities, Bella Vista on the north to Berkshire and the farms in Old Town, and so forth on the south. I know that FRICO isn't fond of people accessing that. They've got signs everywhere saying no trespassing, people will be prosecuted. I would at least like to explore if we could work with them and have them either grant an easement or a release of liability or whatever would be needed to open that up and allow pedestrians and the people to walk it or jog or walk their dogs or whatever. I don't know what would be involved or how the FRICO feels about that. So I'll just bring it up as something I would like for us to look into. And then there isn't any connection from the rest of that over to Silver Peaks where that new elementary is. And I know that there are a lot of families who would love to be able to send their kids on bikes or scooters from the different parts of town to that elementary, but we don't really allow a safe way for them to do that yet out on that main road. I guess the question is could we carve out a trail over to that elementary? It doesn't have to be a road or anything fancy. It doesn't obviously have to cost very much money, even just maybe rent a bulldozer and just grade a road across where Silver Peaks East is going to be. If we could look at that or find a way to explore that option. Like I said at the beginning, just to provide more connection and interconnectivity and walkability among the town and allow families to have more recreation opportunities and better access to that school over there so that families don't have to drive when they could easily walk or ride their bikes. So anyway, thank you for listening to all that. So those are my comments.
I was just going to say, I don't know if Mr. Stamey has an immediate response to that, but I think this definitely will be a discussion item at our next meeting, especially with the context of, do we want to try and find a way to match that grant for the Dr. Cog trail system? And how much do we want to do that, considering the impact it might have on our budget? But I think all of the thoughts you raised would be a great part of that conversation as well, to see if we move forward with that, what else do we want to do in order to make that connect to the rest of the town? And I'll let Mr. Stamey respond if he has anything beyond that.
So one update, it's a little bit different. We will have a sidewalk now along the County Road 2 segment, which, essentially from 37 to west to Homestead. And then when Silver Peaks picks up that section, we will have, that full length of County Road 2. We have had conversations with FRICO about trail systems along the Spear Canal. And we've also discussed that with Mark Bush with Blue Lake. And I think when Silver Peaks East was done, I believe we did get an easement on part of that on the FRICO Canal on the Burlington. And we do have a sample agreement that FRICO has done with other communities for trail system along their ditch. So it's something we are looking at and we'll try to pursue as we can the developments that occur along that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, Trustee Strock.
Well, I guess my question, I talked to Maureen a little bit about it today, was if Mr. Stamey is going to retire at the first of the year, it may not be too early to start looking for a replacement, a town administrator. It could take quite a while, the way things are, to find somebody. That kind of my only comment right there. That's kind of up to Steve.
Yeah, I think I'll let Steve respond. It looks like he's getting ready to say, but the most recent conversations I've had with him, that might be a plan that's a little bit on hold right now. But Steve, did you have anything?
So I had a conversation with the mayor that I will bring a kind of a transition plan to the board for discussion, and we'll look at that in further detail this fall.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Ott.
I guess my question and only comment is for either Maureen or Linda. With the census going through, what does our population have to be to trigger us having to go from general board members to wards like they have in Brighton? And I don't need an answer.
I
for
don't
that
know.
right
I don't
now.
know that off the top. Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's population based, obviously, and it's wards are in statutory cities. Isn't Brighton home rule?
Yes.
They must have retained the concept of wards then, most home rules, and have gone to districts. But yeah, I'll have to get you that number, Trustee Odd. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. It's in Title 31. In fact, I can try to look while you guys keep going here.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm sorry.
Did you have anything else, Dave?
No, that's it. Thank you. Just, it doesn't have to be today. You can just email me the answer. I don't have to know right now.
She's speed looking right now. I'm curious too, so. Okay, Trustee Doherty.
I have nothing.
Trustee Jeffrey.
I also have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, and I only had a couple of quick things. Just wanted to let the board know that I'm still consistently on calls with Weld County, Adams County, Platte Valley Medical Center on a weekly or bi-weekly basis for COVID updates. To be truthful, the Adams County ones are the most interesting in that they bring together panels of business leaders and school district leaders and that kind of thing to give them updates as to what's going on in various parts of the community. The ones that are most medically helpful are by far the Platte Valley calls. And actually, to Trustee Morris's question about the playgrounds, I asked the doctors on that call about playgrounds on our last one, which I think was 2 weeks ago. And they said the governor's call right now is the right call. Playgrounds shouldn't be open until they have more information about the ability of the virus to spread via playgrounds. They said the science is really mixed right now as to whether heat and UV kills the virus. And while there's some promising studies that suggest that it does, it's just not clear yet. And if it was them and they made the decision, they would say keep them closed for now until we have more data, which was interesting to know. I thought it was helpful to both Steve and I who were on that call to hear that information and to know we weren't doing something totally out of the norm or totally uncalled for, according to the medical experts. Other quick update. Well, two of them. I know Trustee Ott wants to talk about home rule on the June 2nd meeting. So we'll probably have a brief discussion item about that to see if everyone is still on board with trying to move forward with that this year. And the last is brief library update. As you all know, before COVID went down, we were still in the process of trying to work with either Hudson or High Plains to get us a library. The last meeting we had probably like 3 days before COVID sent the world to hell was not a very promising meeting. It looks like we're going to have a really tough road with either Hudson or High Plains to get a library. And I'm sure once we come back out of this, maybe in June or August, we'll have an update from Mr. Setter to give us a little bit of a rundown of where we stand with that and whether it makes sense for us to keep pushing right now, especially given the tax revenues for all of our districts, Hudson, High Plains, ourselves, are probably going to be hit pretty hard by the decline in oil and gas. Which might make our pursuit of a library kind of oddly timed right now. So I just wanted to give everyone an update and let them know that that didn't disappear. It was kind of put on hold actually before COVID, and COVID just made it an even more extended hold. And I think Maureen might have an answer. She looks like she's, no, okay. You're muted, Maureen.
I believe it's 2,000, but I'm still confirming.
Is the number to make it go?
Yeah, to become a city. But you know, like Parker, for instance, is really technically has a population of a city, but they choose to call themselves a town. So you have to, in order to be classified as a city, you have to meet a certain population, but you can always call yourself a town. I think it's 2,000, but I'm still confirming that. So I'll send you an email.
Okay. And does anyone have any further thoughts for the good of the order? You can raise your Zoom hand and I'll call on you. I am seeing none. I will entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We adjourned at 7:46 p.m. See everyone on June 2nd.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Hey,
Good night.
Mayor. Oh, Mayor's gone. Matt, if you're still on, we need to get you sworn in, and as soon as you get sworn in, you're officially on. So
I don't know if I think I'm still muted, right?
yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, okay, just let me know when
Okay.
or how to do that. And
Linda will arrange for that at the beginning of the next meeting.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you guys.